Hey there, Creepy Diaries fam, buckle up for a wild ride. Tonight we're stepping into the unknown with not one, not two, but 3 hair-raising abduction stories that will send chills down your spine. These tales aren't for the faint of heart, so brace yourselves. And hey, we're also keen to hear from you. Drop your spooky stories, theme suggestions in the comments, we'll be reading them for future episodes. Make sure to hit subscribe and turn on those notifications because you don't want to miss a second of this eerie journey. Are you ready to explore the depths of the unexplained? Let's get this show on the road. The night had settled like a cloak around our small lakeside town, and the domestic tranquility of our evening was abruptly shattered when a yellow blur streaked across the sky. I darted to the dining room window, heart racing, and shouted over my shoulder, "What is that, Dad?" The fork he had been holding clattered to the floor, a splash of red wine staining his new work shirt. A triviality that went unnoticed in the moment of shock. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, a rare break in his composed demeanor revealing a flicker of panic. "I don't know." He joined me at the window, and together we watched the object's erratic flight above our town. It seemed like a vessel from a world beyond our own. "Where did it go?" he whispered, his voice barely a thread of sound. "There!" I pointed, as the object zipped over our town's 6-mile-long lake, its movement defying what we understood to be possible even to the eyes of a child. My father, once the sheriff and now a man of quiet evenings, fumbled with his phone, his hands unsteady. "Sheriff, this is Doug Turner," he said into the receiver, his voice a mixture of authority and disbelief. Silence followed, then a click as he ended the call, turning to me with a grave look. He's making some calls. Probably just someone testing a new drone. But as the menacing yellow light dimmed, it seemed to descend near the Williams Ranch on the eastern edge of town. "Come on, you need to rest for school," Dad said, his attempt at reassurance not quite reaching his eyes. He forced a smile as the phone rang again. "Mrs. Doug?" "Yes, sir, give me 20 minutes. I caught a glimpse of fear in his eyes before he masked it. "Let's get you to bed." He tucked me in, his kiss in my forehead not quite as comforting as usual. Before I could voice my concern for his safety, he offered a placating smile. "Don't worry, I'm sure it's nothing. The sheriff's bringing some extra men." He winked, a gesture meant to calm me, but it felt hollow. And then he was gone, leaving a light on near my bed and the front door clicking shut. The house was silent, the town's innocence keeping worries like thieves at bay for now. How I fell asleep, I can't say, but I awoke with a pounding headache, the morning light harsh and unwelcome. My father had not returned. Clutching my head, I stumbled to the kitchen, and there he was, waiting as if the night's events were a distant memory. "Good morning, son." His demeanor was nonchalant, his usual recollection of events absent. "What was it, Dad?" I asked, but his blank expression persisted. "What was what, son?" Confusion mounted. "The yellow light, the thing in the sky." His reply came firm, unsettling. "You must have had a nightmare, son." He stood, his smile widening unnaturally. "You know, I was thinking you could skip school today. Maybe we can take a little field trip?" "Sure," I replied, unease twisting in my gut. "Do you mind if I rest a bit first, though? My head is killing me." His smile faltered briefly, then returned full force. "Of course, rest up. We'll head out around noon. I've got something to show you." The kiss he planted on my forehead was strange, leaving a cold fear lingering on my skin. Back in my room, I pressed my head against the pillow, trying to piece together the truth. How could he not remember? Was it even remotely possible that I had dreamed the whole ordeal? I looked out the window and fragments of memory assaulted me. I hadn't slept through my father's investigation with the sheriff. Instead, I'd watched from the window. I can't recall everything, but I saw something. A blinding flash of light erupted from the spot where we had seen the object land, flashing yellow, then red, then a silvery stream beyond description. After that, my memory fades. I don't remember falling asleep, nor do I recall my father returning that night. I don't know what's happening, but I'm scared. I trust my father, yet none of this seems right. The headache worsens, perhaps from my anxiety about what the day might hold. I wonder what he plans to show me, where we might go. The most prevailing thought, though, shamed I am to admit, is he still my father? Time passed in a haze until the door opened slowly and I saw him smiling at me. "It's time." Our eyes met, and before I could recount how my headache had worsened, he said, "Don't worry, once we get there, you'll feel much better, I promise." I nodded, my will to resist or question eroded by the throbbing pain. He helped me into his old pickup truck, handed me a pillow to cushion my head, and shut the door behind me. The engine roared to life, and I drifted in and out of consciousness as we drove towards town. For a moment, my eyes flickered open to the sight of bright pines outside my window. A family of deer seemed to lock eyes with me as we passed. Arriving at the town square, the scene was surreal. Friends and family members were there, as if expecting me, their eyes bright and smiles wide as we drove by. "They are happy to see you," my father said. "Why are we going, Dad?" I managed before the pain forced my eyes shut again. I saw him glance at me, the second wink of the day somehow more disconcerting than comforting. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, I was standing in an open field, presumably the Williams Ranch. The sun was not as bright as it had been during our drive, and strangely, my headache had almost vanished. "Ready?" my father asked, his eyes not the calm brown I remembered, but a metallic silver. "Ready for what?" I managed. "Ready to see," he replied, his smile broad as he stepped aside. Behind him on the ground lay a silver disc. As we approached the silver disc, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and curiosity. My father, or the man I thought I knew as my father, guided me closer with a gentle hand on my back. The disc's surface was smooth, reflecting the morning light in a dazzling area of colors. "Just step inside," he urged, his voice now carrying a strange, melodic quality that I had never heard before. Hesitantly, I followed him into the disc. Inside, the space was larger than it appeared from the outside, filled with lights and panels of unknown technology. Beings not quite human moved around gracefully, their eyes kind, but filled with an intelligence far beyond our own. One of them approached me, its form shimmering. "We're not here to harm," it spoke in a voice that resonated within my very soul. "Your father helped us, and in return, we granted him knowledge and extended life." I turned to my father, questions burning in my eyes. He nodded, his expression filled with a mix of sadness and pride. "I wanted to protect our town, our world. They're peaceful, son, and they need our help." The beings explained that they were explorers from a distant galaxy studying different worlds and life forms. They needed human understanding to better navigate our planet. In exchange, they offered insights into the universe, technology beyond our wildest dreams, and a chance to promote peace and understanding. As we talked, my father subsided, replaced by a sense of wonder. I realized that this encounter, this incredible event, was a turning point not just for me, but potentially for all of humanity. We spent hours aboard the disc, learning and sharing. When it was time to leave, my father hugged me tightly. "You must keep this a secret for now," he whispered. "The world isn't ready yet. but one day they will be. We returned to the field just as the sun was setting, the disk disappearing into the sky as quickly as it arrived. Walking back to the truck, my father seemed older, wiser, yet there was a new lightness to his step. As we drove home, the world seemed different, filled with infinite possibilities. The town, once just a small dot on the map, now felt like a gateway to the stars. And I, once a boy with a simple life, now carried a secret that held the promise of a future where the stars were within our reach. I looked at my father, realizing that while he may not be the same man I grew up with, he was still my dad, a man who had shown incredible bravery and love. In his eyes, I saw the reflection of the stars, and I knew that our journey together was just beginning. Practicality has always been my creed, skepticism my companion on the long hauls. I found comfort in the hum of my truck's engine, a rhythm to the endless asphalt that stretched out beneath the beams of my headlights. I was no stranger to the lonely roads that cut through the heart of the country. But nothing could have prepared me for the encounter that awaited me on a particularly starless night. The road ahead was shrouded in darkness, the kind that seems to swallow up the light, making the world beyond the reach of my truck's lights feel vast and unknown. It was during these small hours, when homes were asleep and the nocturnal creatures roamed, that she appeared, a figure in white, a stark contrast against the night's canvas, her presence on this deserted stretch of highway both alarming and out of place. Curiosity piqued and a sense of responsibility staring within me. I eased my truck to a stop, rolling down the window. The cool night air carried the scent of pine and damp earth as I called out to her. "Do you need help?" But she offered no reply, only turning to face the dense forest that hugged the roadside, her gaze fixed on the unseen depths beyond. Inexplicably compelled, I killed the engine and stepped out into the night, my boots crunching on the gravel shoulder as I called after her. She moved with an otherworldly grace, her feet barely seeming to touch the ground as she drifted towards the tree line. My voice, once confident and loud, was now a mere whisper swallowed by the vastness of the forest that stood like silent sentinels to a world I never knew existed. The woods welcomed me with an eerie silence, a stark contrast to the constant thrum I was used to. Each step was hesitant, the darkness around me alive with the possibility of the unknown. It was then that the light revealed itself, a luminescent orb floating in the stillness of the night, its glow a silent siren call that was both mesmerizing and terrifying in its beauty. As the girl approached the light, it seemed to pulse with anticipation, and despite every instinct screaming inside me to turn back, I followed, drawn by the same inexplicable force. She stood before the light, bathed in its otherworldly glow, her hand reaching out to touch it, her expression one of serene acceptance. The light enveloped us, a warmth that spoke of comfort and secrets of the universe, whispered in language too ancient for human tongues. For a timeless moment, I was part of something far greater than myself, connected to the cosmos in a way that words could never convey. But as quickly as it had appeared, the light receded, taking the girl with it. I was now left alone, the silence now a deafening roar in my ears. I stumbled back to my truck, my mind a whirlwind of questions with no answers. The return to civilization was silent, save for the sound of the engine and the occasional crackle of the radio. The first light of dawn cast long shadows in the road as I reached the sanctuary of my home. The experience etched into the very fabric of my being. The story remains untold, a secret that lives in the silent spaces between the words of my everyday conversations. Yet every time I pass that lonely stretch of road, I can't help but search the shadows for a glimpse of the light or the girl. A part of me yearning for the mystery and another encounter with the unknown. I'd always prided myself in being grounded, a skeptic. The mysteries that night held were just signs I hadn't figured out yet. That was until the weekend we went camping in the woods on the outskirts of town, a place where ancient secrets rustled through the leaves and the wind seemed to whisper your name. It was meant to be an adventure among friends, a sort of coming-of-age ritual to prove our mettle against the forest's shadows. The four of us, me, Jake, Tyler, and Sean, settled near a babbling brook where the night sky was a deep canvas sprinkled with stars. As dusk settled like a soft wheel, deceptively peaceful, Tyler, our most adventurous, pointed upwards. "What's that?" he asked, his voice a blend of curiosity and an unexpected quiver. Our eyes traced his outstretched finger to the pulsing light dancing among the stars. It wasn't a shooting star. It was too large, too close, and it moved with purpose. "No big deal," Sean, our resident cynic, said, though his voice betrayed his composure. "Must be some sort of satellite or something. But satellites don't change directions. Satellites don't swoop down toward a group of boys huddled in the wilderness, their hearts thumping with the promise of the unfathomable." The light throbbed, casting a silvery glow that seemed almost liquid, as if it was alive. Now all four of us stood, our bodies tense, eyes wide. The forest silence was deafening, with only our breathing and the brooks murmuring to remind us the world was still turning. "It's probably just some high-tech drone," Jake tried to rationalize, his voice artificially logical. But none of us believed it, not even him. The light drew closer, now so bright it cast shadows around us. It dipped behind a nearby hill, and for a moment, all we could do was stare after it. "Let's check it out," Tyler said, the word adventure glinting in his eyes. And without pondering the consequences, without considering how this night could change everything, we followed. The grass beneath our feet seemed to hum with each step we took toward the unknown. Reaching the hill's crest, what we saw in the valley below took our breath away. There, settled and seemingly benign, was a smooth, flawless silver disk. The light it emitted was no longer an aggressive pulse, but a soft, welcoming glow. Then, unexpectedly, a door opened, a ramp extending to the forest floor like an invitation. We exchanged glances, adrenaline morphing out fear into something akin to resolve. Before we could decide on our next move, figures emerged from the craft's entrance. Not human, but not entirely alien. They bore human shapes, but their skin shimmered with the same silver hue as the vessel. They beckoned us inside, their voices a melody that seemed to speak straight to our souls. "Come," they urged. "Show us your world, and we'll show you ours." What followed is a blur of memories, stars seen from impossible angles, galaxies spinning like cosmic carousels. We spoke of our lives, our dreams, and they shared visions of harmony beyond words. When they returned us to our now smoldered campfire, the dawn was breaking, promising daylight. We sat in silence, none of us wanting to shatter the enchantment of the night. None of us certain if our experience had been reality or a collective figment of our imagination. But as the sun rose and the daylight began to chase away the shadows, we knew. We knew something had shifted within us, that we had witnessed something most only dream of. And as we packed up our gear, every movement seemed infused with newfound purpose. Our foray into the woods had been more than a bravery test. It was an encounter, a revelation. And though we never spoke of it openly again, the light we saw that night never left us. It lingered within, a silent secret we would carry forever. Are you fascinated by those spooky tales? Then don't hesitate to drop a comment with the eerie stories you're dying to hear about next. Make sure to click and delve into 2 more spine-tingling tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. And hey, just a little tip, keep that bedroom door slightly open, just in case. Can't wait to hear your thoughts and catch you later for more hair-raising adventures.